sure what happened. I didn't intend to be late. I promise I definitely did not intend to be late. How are you doing? Good evening. It is TERF Talk Tuesday. I'm going to give you your numbers as soon as humanly possible. One thing at a time, callers. I'm just moving all of my different screens because I'm so technically incredible. I'm moving you there. And then, hi, how you doing? Okay, so I'm going to give you the numbers. I'm going to put them in the chat right now. I hope that makes sense. It probably doesn't. Let's try again. Okay, so it is for the UK, or if you... Oh, thank you, Band United. Good evening to you, my delectable, wonderful adult human female who is organising right now this live stream. Okay, so you can call whenever you like. You don't have to say your name. You are welcome to. We don't expect that. It's nice if we know who you are, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to intersperse this TERF Talk Tuesday with a conversation that we had on Sunday after the event. So we go to the pub. That's what we usually do. We go to the pub and or we drink in the park because that's classy. We go to the pub and there's a young woman, and maybe the lionesses had just won. Something had just happened, and this young woman comes over and she's chatting, and we sort of engage her in this topic, and she's very polite and respectful, but this is what her point of view was, and I think it serves us well to understand. And I'm going to tell you what I think is the underpinning of her opinion, and I don't know if you'll agree, but I'm going to talk to you about this. So let me preface this with saying that I've got some friends, very close friends, who are doing couples counselling, which is like marriage counselling. And one of the things that they found, they're on their third counsellor, is that the first two women they went to sided with the man so much that kind of he couldn't help what he was doing, that they're on their third counsellor. And here we go. Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. As you well know, you can speak. You can speak. Of course you can speak. You can say who you are. You don't have to. Good evening.
Good evening. I have a quick question, actually, that I just want to clarify. My name's Kit, by the way. I am a teacher, and I recently resigned from school because of the gender issues in schools, which I refused to affirm a girl who thought she was a boy, and it was becoming problematic. And the question I have is, I've read through all of the documentation from the Equalities Act regarding men in women's private spaces. And where do we actually stand on that? I can't really find anything particularly definitive about, can we just say, no, you can't come in?
Where I stand on that is exactly where you do, which is that it's quite weak, isn't it? Because it says that if is it legitimate aims? Basically, you have to fully justify why these men can't come in.
But how would that stand up in terms of, if, you know, what I'm concerned about is I don't really see very much of it. But when I go into the city centre, I've got a grandchild who's a little girl, and I feel very, very uncomfortable, and personally as well, but particularly for the young girls getting older. And I just want to be in a position where I can kind of like say, right, no, you can't come in while we're in here. Well, or in fact, anybody. Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely
Where do we stand legally?
Legally, I think if you say to anybody that you don't want them to come in because they're a man, so if you say that to somebody who calls himself a woman, who is a man, and you say, actually, I don't want you to come in this space, I don't know what the law is. I don't know whether in the current the current climate, whether you might be actually charged with some sort of hate speech or discrimination. So that's where it would stand. On a personal level, I would kind of welcome that sort of legal attention, to be quite honest, and get into some legal case, which we could lose. Normal kind of respectable women might lose that fight, but we would win the sort of the media war, and we would win the attention, and it would shine a light on the absolute idiocy that we don't have that protection. So
I'm just wondering on that basis, because as we go forward, I mean, we have had as a kind of movement, I suppose, some little wins. Slowly by slowly, we seem to be kind of moving forward incrementally. But whether or not this becomes part of the wider narrative in terms of like how many women really are paying any attention is what worries me. I mean, I do try to do my bit. I am the billboard. But it's just like when you try and have those conversations, so many women just shut you down and don't want to have a conversation about it. Or obviously, they are, particularly the younger generation, are really quite rude and call you a phobe.
Well, I think that's because it's religious, though. I think it's dogmatic, isn't it? It's religious and dogmatic to have an argument, and they can't justify their position.
Yeah, but I mean, I do worry that, I have noticed actually that more and more people are a little bit more willing to have those conversations a little bit more in the last like 5-6 months. And I'm hoping that trend will continue. But I mean, as a group, apart from being the billboard, apart from being the to challenge, what else is it that we can do to kind of like make it? Because I know that I haven't actually had an opportunity to come down to any of the speakers' corners because I have other commitments at weekends, but I would love to be part of that band. But it's just like I just kind of worry that this is not. We just need to get the message out more and more and more, and to have more and more and more women and men as well, like coming on board and being visible and being vocal. And how do we do that apart from doing what you're doing?
Well,
I don't know.
You do what you're doing. I mean, today you've phoned in. I'm assuming that you share articles, you read articles, you talk to your neighbours and friends. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. That's what we do. We do what you're doing. I mean, you can start a YouTube channel if you like, and design some T-shirts. But that's what we do. That you phoning in this evening definitely will have had an impact on somebody else, and there'll be somebody else who will speak up because you've just spoken up.
Yeah. And I will just share one very brief thing with you. I am a teacher, and before I resigned from my previous job, we had some training, which was essentially, I don't know how you describe it, 2 unicorns and whatever. And they, this was all ongoing, and it was all about the gender and blah, 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 blah. And we just literally turned it down, because it was all on Zoom or something, and we turned it down so we couldn't really hear it, but we kind of like heard snippets of it because we were all just like marking. And then at the end of it, the people in the department all came in, generally mostly women, and were absolutely kicking off about the nonsense. But they won't do it in reality. Do you know what I mean? It's like they won't do it. I mean, I resigned because I'm vocal and I do object, but the vast majority of people don't. And that's what concerns me, I think, more than anything else, is people are not willing to stand up and recount it.
Apathy and cowardice. They are useful tools for the other side.
Yeah.
Look, I think if you do what you do, and you've just resigned, I'm assuming you told everyone why you were resigning.
Yeah.
That you were taking a stand. So I think it's a million small acts that will win this war, more than, giant. That there'll be a few news stories that will pique people's interest and let them look. But it really is. It's a conversation that you will have had already that will have a profound effect on somebody else. So I think that's hopefully what we keep doing. And you have to force yourself to free up some time to come to Speaker's Corner.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. I mean, we are. Yeah, definitely. And when's can you? Are you allowed to say what date the Brighton one is or not?
Yes, the 18th. It's the 18th of September. We welcome the TRAs.
Oh yeah. I definitely want to come to. I will try my absolute damnedest and bring some people with me. But yes, I mean, I do watch them, and I absolutely love them. I think they're absolutely superb.
Well,
really,
you would
really
be
good.
More than welcome. And thank you very much for your call this evening. Cheers.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. You can say who you are. You don't absolutely have to. I'm going to get rid of that little beeping. Good evening.
Hi, Kellie-Jay. This is Gina Reinhardt. I'm calling from the United States in North Carolina.
Hello, good evening. How are you? Oh, good afternoon. Sorry. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you. What would you like to say?
I would just like to ask everyone to please make a public comment if they can on, and I will email you the link for this. I tried to post it in the comments for TERF Talk Tuesday, but I couldn't do that. The Biden administration, they're trying to adjust Title IX protections, which my grandmother and my mother fought for. They're both athletes. They fought for our right to play in sports and to have these protections. And the Biden administration, they want to change it to gender identity instead of sex.
It's so disgusting. So what do you want American women to do? You want them to write to their local, to their government? Who is it? Where do they direct their anger?
We have until mid-September, and I will message you the link on Twitter or through YouTube if I can. I tried to put it in the comments, but I couldn't. There is the change is open for public comment right now. And I think there were 17,000 comments the last time I checked. But we need everyone to stand up against this and say, we fought for Title IX. My grandmother fought for it. My mother fought for it. And we didn't do it so that men who claim to be women could take our spaces in sports.
It's absolutely disgusting. Why do you think that, are the mainstream media talking about it at all, even in a positive way? But which by positive, I mean for us, hideous, lies, dishonest, deceitful way. But why do you think there's only 17,000 comments, like pro or con? Do you think everyone's just trying to just pass this through very, very quietly and say, well, we did consult you anyway?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the administration right now feels like this is what the Democrats want. And as a former Democrat, now independent, kind of politically homeless person in the United States, this is not what people want. And I think that it's not being discussed on the media. The fact that Joe Biden signed an executive order on his second day in office that allowed this with the Leah Thomas situation has not been discussed. People just aren't aware.
I don't even think people are aware that Obama started all this, didn't he? He started sort of giving away women's rights.
Yeah. I don't think he really did anything significant, though, but it was definitely pushed for during Biden's campaign on a low level, but it wasn't super publicized. So a lot of women here who voted for Biden had no idea that he was planning to do this.
Well, to be fair, I don't know if Biden had any idea that he's planning to do this either.
Right.
Right,
yeah.
What do you think is going to break the spell? Like if you had to say what you feel is going to break the spell in the US, what do you think it will be?
I think it's going to have to be, a lot more publicity about what's going on, or for the most part, it's going to be parents or grandparents or aunts, uncles, someone who has a daughter or a young female that they care about in school, in public school and in sports especially. I have 4 daughters who compete, and I only have daughters, and I have one going to college on a scholarship for athletics. So this is very important to me. I feel like until it affects people personally, they're not going to care.
So can I ask, because for us over here in the UK, we have no idea what scholarship, kind of what financial kind of weight is a scholarship. So what is that scholarship worth financially? And what is the springboard about getting a scholarship to a particular university and then onwards? Can you give a picture for people that aren't in the States what that actually means?
Yeah, the Ivy Leagues, like where Leah Thomas is, they don't actually do athletic scholarships, but a lot of the NCAA colleges do. And if you get an athletic scholarship, you have to maintain a certain GPA, but your college is paid for, your room and board's paid for all 4 years, as long as you compete in the sport that you get a scholarship for. My daughter's going to a private university. Her scholarship is worth $65,000.
Gee.
And that pays for a portion of her tuition, but she didn't want to go to a NCAA college at this time because of what's going on with the trans-identifying males getting into women's sports.
Wow.
And dorms, and it's becoming a huge problem. But I really feel like in the United States, until it personally affects someone with a family member, they're just oblivious to it.
Wow.
Because
So,
it's not being reported.
if you drop me an email also to info@standingforwomen, then what I can do is I can put it out to the social media team, and we can send it out in an email campaign. And you said it this evening, so hopefully more American women listening can respond. Can other people respond to that consultation, or do you have to be US based?
I don't know.
Okay.
To me, I feel like, if someone's overseas and they are considering even moving to the United States, they should be able to comment. But I'm hoping that everyone can, really.
Okay. Well, the very best of luck to you, and thank you for calling in, and the best of luck to all 4 of your daughters. But thank you very much for calling.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Hello, good evening. I can hear myself. You can say who you are, you don't have to, but good evening. It's TERF Talk Tuesday.
Hello, Kellie-Jay. My name's Taylor. I came to your Speaker's Corner on Sunday with my daughter.
Yay! Hi, how are you doing?
I'm really good. I just wanted to say really quickly and say thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me and to Isla, Kai, personally, and to Mr. Benno as well, who did the same, and plenty of other people that were there that just made us so welcome. It was just brilliant. I loved it. My younger daughter fell asleep through most of it. Don't be offended. That's what her thing. But no, we had a great day, and I just wanted to thank you again this evening for that.
You're very welcome. It was lovely to meet you both. Really good.
Yes, thank you.
Really good. And I
will be at Brighton.
If you can look, I don't know if callers remember you, but you phoned last week, and your daughter is 13 and calls herself a boy. I'm not going to say thinks she's a boy, but calls herself a boy, and she came. So you're doing a great thing. Whatever is happening in your household, I think the fact that you could bring your daughter to a space in which she knew that people didn't go along with whatever she has decided, I think is great credit to you. So well done.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, yeah, to those listening, I want them to know I did not drag her kicking and screaming. I said it was a women's rights sort of rally, and then I gave her every opportunity to back out, because I said, it can get quite turfy, and we sort of mainly talk about that subject, and you can go to your dad's a day early, it's not an issue. And she was still, no, I want to come. So it was of her own volition. I think she was sort of, typical 13-year-old doesn't really change her facial shapes at all, whatever happens. So couldn't really get much of a vibe from her. But I'm just hoping it's maybe just planted a couple of seeds, and she'll go away and just have a think. And yeah, I certainly don't think it did any harm. So that's really, really good.
Amazing. Really nice to see you both. I shall see you in Brighton.
Yes, you will. Thank you so much, Kellie-Jay.
You're very welcome.
Thank you to everyone as well from Sunday, from me personally.
You are very welcome. I will see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. You are welcome to identify yourself. You do not have to. Good evening.
Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
I'm Scott Campbell.
Hi, Scott.
I have no problem
Campbell.
identifying myself.
Good evening. How the devil are you? What would you like to say?
Well, I had a whole speech in my head and it just left because I'm just so excited to get through and talk to you. But one thing that I came to mind is that even as plain spoken as you are, and it's so refreshing, there's still, I'm 50 years old, so I'm an old guy. And I just remember how we used to speak plainly to one another, even in disagreeing situations, and we still keep it respectful, but we would still call a spade and still use just plain language instead of all this couching of, well, you know, I'm not really a transphobe or a homophobe, or I like all people, but doggone it, you know, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Well, when you don't speak plainly and you use all of the flowery qualifying language, you're already putting yourself behind the 8 ball, so to speak, and basically allowing the opponents to frame the debate, and whoever frames the argument wins, right?
Yes.
So I think one thing is we need to, and I'm not saying you, Kelly, because by golly, you're an inspiration to so many, me included, and that is you just stick to your guns, say it like it is. A woman is a woman is an adult human female, and a man is an adult human male. And I love it. And in the chat last week, during the replay, I learned a term called TERF mate. That's what us guys can be to assist the TERFs. We could be TERF mates.
I like it.
Right. I think mate stands for males against trans
extremism.
Exclusion. Trans extremism. Thank you.
Okay.
So TERF mate, and it almost sounds like checkmate. So if we all work together, you know, we win. We just win.
100%.
And there's another thing with us husbands. Okay. All we need is a little encouragement, and we will run through a brick wall for you. Because that's what we're here for, providing and protecting.
Well,
and that's what we want to do.
I agree with you. It's old fashioned, but I agree with you that, you know, I don't mean go around and protecting every woman because we're all delicate wallflowers, but obviously when you want to protect your wife and your kids, if you're married, that seems quite a sensible position.
Well, thank you. Because honestly, here in America, on Sunday, we had a little birthday party for my brother-in-law, and another brother-in-law of mine said, hey, you know, we're the only two kind of people that are allowed to be discriminated against anymore, and that's white men. And I looked at him and I said, isn't it sad that even we're having that kind of defeatist attitude in admitting that it's okay to be the last butt of all jokes and be the people that everybody can look down upon. And I don't mean to make this into a, oh, woe is me male thing, but the bottom line is I think where it is congruent, it's been okay to at the expense of women to raise up these perverted men that want to put on a dress and some makeup and say, now I'm a woman. No, you're not. And even if they have surgeries, they're still going to be men.
Well, look, I think you raise an interesting point that it's in media, kind of in power circles, it's okay to be seen to be discriminating against white men, right? But then all in the positions of power, there seems to be this weird thing where powerful white men will pretend and they will discriminate against powerful white men. So Biden at the moment would definitely go against powerful white men, but that's part of him shielding the fact that he does have a certain privilege. And I would say in America, I think that when it comes to discrimination and when it comes to the people with the worst lives, I would say that those people are the poor people. And it doesn't really matter what color your skin is. If you're poor, you're poor. But as I understand it, as statistics go, you are maybe more likely to be poor if you are black. Now, that doesn't mean that, then it's power, and it's all lies. Whether people feel discriminated against, whether it's okay to be the butt of somebody's jokes, all of it, the reason it feels uncomfortable is because most of it is dishonest, and what you're supposed to see, you're not allowed to see. or rather
Exactly.
what you're supposed to see isn't really what's going on. And so I think that is the big
Exactly.
trick, and it's all to do with
Yep.
power. But
And abuse,
absolutely.
because I learned that my dad was a very, very abusive man verbally, because he was a quadriplegic, very bitter, because he used to be a huge physical man, broke his neck, and then all that anger and bitterness came out at my brother and I. Well, my brother's 6 years younger than me. I learned it was so much safer standing beside my dad than in front of him,
Right.
where my brother was. So what you're saying about the powerful white men basically using their power against other powerful white men, it's because you naturally figure out when you're abusing somebody else, it's a whole lot easier to be an abuser than an abusee.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's what we do to one another, is we abuse each other. And sorry to take you off topic, but it's just such a pleasure to talk with you, and I just love this community. I love this community.
Well,
thank you so much.
You are very welcome in it, and thank you so very much for calling, Scott. Really nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Okay, Savage Media, thank you so much for your £5. Kelly, have a coffee on me. I shall do that. I might even just get myself, I don't know, iced coffee, I think. I'm feeling it. Good evening. This is TERF Talk Tuesday. You are through. You can identify yourself. You don't have to. What would you like to say?
Hello. I'll give you my username, Miss Chopsy.
Hi, Miss Chopsy.
Hi, yeah. I'm just one of the foot soldiers, do lots of liking and retweeting, try and amplify everybody else. I had a bit of a debate on Twitter today. Some charming person called Angel decided to assault a lot of us on our looks, including you, which, seeing as you look like Diana Dawes to me, is absolutely stunning.
I love Diana Dawes. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. You've got a young Diana Dawes about you, Mrs. Honestly. But it occurred to me that we're always supposed to take the higher ground, you know. But I don't really necessarily think that's always the way to fight. I mean, you have to meet them where they are. And if they're going to come in talking rubbish about looks, and, you know, it's obviously a currency they deal in, you know.
Yeah.
So my feeling is you can have it right back, you know. You're going to be bitchy and starky and snarky about how we look. Have you got any mirrors in your house?
Well,
No?
I think if you walk away from an exchange and you feel a little better about your day, then you do whatever you like. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who sort of says that if you lower yourself to where they are, then you end up getting dirty, and we don't want to taint ourselves with whatever they emit. But you know, go for it if you feel better walking away. But there's this thing. What do they want? What do these men want? They ultimately want your attention. That's what they want. And so I always think, if you grey rock them, if you totally ignore them, then they don't get what they want, and you don't get sucked into whatever it is that they want to say. I think they're all narcissists, malignant narcissists. And I think the best way to deal with them is just to ignore them, like you would a tantruming toddler. However, every now and again, go for your life.
Yeah. So I think the things I'm a bit sort of Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X on this. You know, on the one hand, you know, if you keep, you know, bowing down, you know, they're going to just keep stamping on you. From my point of view, from like I said, from the currency that they're dealing in. You know, so Malcolm X there has to be, I believe, consequences for behaviour. Now, you're right. We spend all day, every day, giving them the attention they want. But, you know, it's so childish, but it does crap me up when I do it. I just love making a bitchy comment and blocking them so they can't reply. But I really feel it's like, you know, all right, that's the level you want to go to. I'm not staying there all day with you. I'm not staying down in the dirt with you. But if that's your currency, you know, if that's the price of poker for you, I'm quite happy to deal. But it's you know, on Twitter, as you said yourself, I totally get you, and I want to be all gandy about this and not get down in the mud with them. But sometimes you just get so fed up of turning a blind eye, blocking this idiot. You know what I mean?
Yes, so look, I rarely engage with these men on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter at all, but even anywhere on social media, I rarely do it. And the reason I rarely do it is because I don't post very much. I do this, or I might go out in public. Now, I can't say I was super mature. I'm not a millionaire at all. My husband is not a millionaire, right? But when they start going, oh, you're absolutely loaded. You're loaded. Oh, your husband's a millionaire. And so I just go, yes, we are. We're absolutely loaded. Now, I find that particularly amusing.
Yeah.
I don't want to engage in the kind of, I don't need to throw insults at them, because half the time these massive blokes just make themselves look horrendous. And I'm in the business of helping them do that. But look, if every now and again it makes you feel like for having a little go back, then as long as you don't feel worse after the exchange, who am I to judge?
Oh, bless you. No, and I'm called Miss Chopsy. I didn't get that nickname for nothing. So
I love Chopsy. I hadn't heard Chopsy, because I come from the West Country, until I went to university. In fact, it might be my husband is the first person to ever say it, but I do love a bit of Chopsy. So thank you, Miss Chopsy. Do carry on.
And thank you for what you do.
You are very welcome. Nice to talk to you. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, good evening. You are through to Turf Talk Tuesday. You can tell me your name. You don't have to. It's entirely up to you.
Hi, Kelly. Yeah, my name is Matthew. And I just wanted to call to let you know that I was working for Waitrose as a delivery driver up until, well, very recently, where I've left them now.
Right.
And this is regards to, I saw your video that you made. I'm just going to move to another room in my house for a minute.
Okay, that might have been me not silencing the bing bongs. So sorry, Matthew.
No. So I think the signal on my phone isn't good in the room where I was. But yeah, so I left a comment in your video just saying, I work for Waitrose and this is, well, basically I was going to say it's unacceptable, and then I might have made a comment about them being a bit woke and lots and lots of rainbows, and they're completely on board fully with the message. So anyway, I left that message and I got called in for disciplinary because of my breaking of the contract. We're not supposed to say anything negative about Waitrose, and they did. I think they were going to put me through a disciplinary process where I would have probably had to accept what I did was wrong, etc., etc. I got given a re-education pack on what pride is and all about how terrible things like conversion therapy are, as opposed to, transgendering children. And I just resigned basically. But yeah, I thought you might be interested to hear that that's a little follow-on from your interaction with Waitrose. Has it resolved with you?
No, they haven't dealt with me at all. I haven't got time. But no, I haven't. I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, that's all right. No, I'm fine. I've just today got another job. So I spent a couple of weeks working with an old mate as a chef, because I used to be a chef, and I've just got another driving job today. So it's all good. I'm okay. It's just it's a shame actually, because actually pretty nice company to work for, Waitrose, but it's I suppose when it comes to it, I wasn't going to just say, it's what the Chinese used to call it, the struggle session, or the Soviets, wasn't it? Get you to admit you're wrong, or admit that 2 + 2 = 5, if you like.
So would you have been allowed to say something? So would you have been allowed, for example, to say, you're a stupid TERF? You don't know what
I imagine that would have been okay. Yeah. If I'd have put something like I work for Waitrose, and if I met a horrible bigoted TERF like that, then I'm sure it probably would have been fine. I imagine we've had it's a very woke company, Waitrose, and I wonder whether part of it is their human resources probably completely taken over.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of the board really care about it. You know, I think it's at the moment, you know, you get to June, every single big company changes their logo, get rainbows everywhere, don't they? And they all say current thing, and in order to be left alone, I suppose, by the mob. But I don't know. I don't know how much they really care. I suppose there's probably a few, you know, ideologues on the board, but overall, they're there to make money.
God.
Which
Well,
is what all companies are there for.
When June came along, when June came along, there were a lot of people like there was a meme, somebody throwing out their Ukraine flag and then putting in their
yeah, exactly. Support current thing.
Yeah, well, I'm very pleased to hear that you got a new job. I hope you're not working for a terrible woke company who now will listen to you on here and sack you.
Well, let's hope not. But yeah, these companies do have they have the Big Brother watching, so you never know. But I haven't mentioned who I'm working for, so you know it should be fine.
Well,
and I won't be telling people who I work for.
Best of luck, and thank you so much for calling, Matthew.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
You have to enjoy the show. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Hello, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. You can say who you are. You absolutely don't have to, but good evening. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kellie-Jay. It's JT. I called a couple of weeks ago and I turned up on Sunday, which was great. My first speaker's corner, so that was really, really good. I was just listening to an earlier caller, a teacher who had resigned. And I was just thinking about what has happened in the last few days with me. I have on my Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm not anonymous. And I put up an article, Lucy Bannerman's Times article, saying that teachers basically need guidelines about how to deal with children claiming to be trans. And on the post on both of those platforms, I had said, you know, I know a lot of you have seen me post things regarding this topic. Now you can see where I'm coming from. I know many of you read them, but you don't comment, you don't like, but I'm just putting it out there because I know you do read them. And I was checking on LinkedIn just before this TERF Talk Tuesday, and I saw 30 impressions. So obviously people are looking at it. And interestingly enough, a third of the impressions are from head teachers. So there are teachers and people that work in education that are looking at these articles. How much they're going to implement in their schools is another thing. But I just thought it was quite interesting seeing the number of teachers that are actually looking, but just not commenting, not liking for fear of. They're liking other things I put on there, but deliberately, I don't want to say ignoring, but not trying to show that they are in any way, shape or form linked to these particular articles, because we're all
scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very scary in that respect.
The silencing, I think, of ordinary people and people who know it's wrong, but can't even sort of say a sentence about it, can't even start a conversation about it. I think that is so frightening. And so that's why, JT, it's really important when you ring, when you come to Speaker's Corner, when you put those articles, if other people could just share, you know, start with something balanced. You know, there's nothing balanced if you're saying that men can be women, but start, you know, start with the big articles that sort of raise a couple of questions, maybe start with sport, start with the Lionesses. But yeah, it is really scary, but well done for going on and starting to TERF LinkedIn. I must admit, I do the same. I am waiting to be banned any day, though. I'm sure they will ban me any day. But thank you so much for calling, JT.
No, thank you for having this. This is brilliant.
You're very welcome. Cheers. Bye. Scott Campbell, thank you so much for your £10. He's $10. He says, I totally forgot to tell you. Oh, I've just scrolled the comment. Hang on. I totally forgot to tell you that I first learned of you on trigonometry. You totally changed their minds on trans issues. Yes, I did. I've watched both your hours with them twice. You rock. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you for sticking with that. I mean, nobody expects that much commitment. Good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. As you can hear, I'm always a little ahead of YouTube. You can say who you are. You don't have to. Good evening. What would you like to say?
Sorry, Kelly. Hi.
Hi.
I don't want to identify myself because I've had a bit of an issue today.
Okay.
We have spoken before. I've had a couple of conversations with two friends this week to try and explain to them what was going on. Neither of them had any idea whatsoever as to the pervasive nature of what's been happening, and were absolutely horrified, which emboldened me. And then I watched your video about toilets in schools, and I had a conversation in a private Facebook group with other mothers about what's going on in the local schools, asking the questions. And I was very polite, and I got absolutely shut down. I got accused of being a bigot, being discriminatory, being a racist, being a homophobe. I tried to explain. I'd watched a lot of Jordan Peterson this week. I've done nothing but watch videos and read this week. I've become obsessed. And I tried to explain that gender was more about temperament, which is the way he explains it, that you can be a feminine male or you can be a masculine female, that it isn't actually sex, and that they shouldn't be conflating sex and gender. And that I have no objection. I'm not being discriminatory. I've got no objection to boys that want to be feminine or the other way around. But I don't think it's right that boys with penises should be in girls' spaces. And I still got shouted down that I was a bigot and all the rest of it. And I'm like, okay, so would you be happy with a boy walking into a changing room or a toilet and being naked? Well, what do you think then? They're not going to be naked. They're all kids. It's fine. It doesn't matter. I can't believe your language. You are terrible. You are such a bigot. Christ. I mean, I really got shut down. And then I ended up deleting the whole thread, which I've saved, and I want to email you because I'm quite concerned, because they said they were going to report me for hate speech.
Okay. First things first. I think you're absolutely right. And I think even though it might have felt really, really unpleasant, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to have that opinion and say it somewhere, because there will be other people in that private space. Even there will be other people that read that, they will agree with you and be thankful that somebody said it. That's number one. Number two, I don't know where this comes. I didn't know that we really, really didn't like girls very much, and women. And it seems that we are okay. And most of us women have been girls, right? I really loved puberty. I had an older sister. I loved puberty. I loved the fact that I then became sort of a woman. I loved it. I still didn't like male attention. I still would have been embarrassed in a toilet. And so all these women that are now pretending that they don't remember what it was like, and that they would have been accepting of any old boy in a dress, and that these women can't read these men at all and appreciate that actually these men feel far more threatening, as far as I'm concerned, than other men, because we sense that they pose some sort of risk because there's a deception about their entire identity. And so I don't know why women are such nasty liars when it comes to pretending that they don't recognize what these men are.
Well, neither do I, but I think it's kind of coming from a female empathetic stand. You know, that these boys think they're girls and we should be kind towards them because they're girls. And that's what I got told. No, they're girls. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're not girls.
No.
And that's like, they're boys. And really, why aren't the boys being spoken to? Why aren't the boys being told that they've got to be inclusive towards other boys that like to dress as girls? Why are the girls having to be put at risk?
But why I started this evening talking about a couple friend of mine who are on their third counsellor, because the first two counsellors, both of them agreed, sided with the husband far too much. And the couple appreciate that whatever's going on is kind of 50-50. But these two women that they saw sided with men, because when those men spoke, and it's the same as when women and men go into hospital, if the men talk about pain, they are taken more seriously than if women talk about pain.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what it is. If a girl says she's uncomfortable, she's told to be accepting and just come on now, then they've got it worse than you. If that boy says I'm uncomfortable in a boys' changing room, he's told that he must be listened to and whatever he says must be taken with absolute seriousness. So I do
think it's a man's world.
It's just, I mean, I probably did know it was like this, but I had no idea that it was so much like this. Did you?
Well, I didn't, and I was really quite shocked because I expected other women to be more protective about their children.
Yeah. But even the mothers of girls won't be protective of their girls over some random boy in a dress.
I'm staggered. It's really upset me. And then I got this woman that's, going on at me and saying, you are now being reported for hate speech.
Well, let me tell you, if that happens to you, let me give you a very short bit of advice. Number one, there isn't really any such thing as hate speech when it comes to this, and most police forces would be mindful not to do anything about this. However, it still can be recorded as a hate incident if the police force are particularly.
I saw an article this week where some policeman was saying that they need to stop investigating.
Well, it was my police. It was one of my the PCC for my area, because I got 2 police around last weekend.
I know, for being untoward towards paedophiles.
Bless his heart. Oh, he just mixed up his words, didn't he? But what I can say to you is, if you do get a call from the police, you don't have to attend at all. You don't have to attend. They can come and arrest you if they feel that you really must attend and they've asked you and invited you and you don't attend. So they can eventually come and arrest you at your house, but they would have to justify that behavior on pace. So they would have to say that it was proportionate to come and arrest you at your house. And also, you don't have to accept a caution. You don't have to talk to them. And if you do want to do those things and just clear it up, because actually your life, you don't want to be worried about whether they will turn up at your house, you can have a solicitor for free under legal aid, and you can go and you can have a chat where you say absolutely nothing. And then you run that gauntlet, and then they'll try and have to go to the CPS, which is underfunded and overstretched, and try and make a case to take you to court for a Facebook post in which you're talking about the safety and dignity of girls. And so I'm going to say to you, that person can report you until the cows come home, and there's probably absolutely nothing that will be done about it. And if they do, then you can get hold of me and I will help you. But the police are in no position to force you to go to the station, and you will never, 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 never say anything to the police, ever. You don't even have to confirm your name. We do no comment interviews here at Standing for Women. We don't ever give the police a single thing to go on. We just say no comment. That's my advice.
Okay.
But the very best of luck, and thank you for speaking up for the dignity and privacy of girls.
Well, I haven't. I've been sharing articles and stuff, but like the previous lady said, nobody likes. No. Nobody wants to be seen to be getting involved. Nobody wants to get involved. Nobody's prepared to put their head above the parapet at all. And then when you do, you get a load of abuse, which comes to my next question. Is I mean, I can't tell you how much I've watched and how much I've read. And I'd really like there to be one piece that encapsulates everything, that summarizes everything, because it's so multi-layered. There's the issue of children being groomed. I mean, I got accused of being homophobic, and I'm like, no, actually, it's the trans people that are homophobic. Because, an LGB are trying to disassociate themselves from trans, because a lot of these children would end up just being homosexual if they were left alone.
Yeah.
And, and people aren't getting it. They're only getting the top layer. They're not getting, and I was guilty of that up until a few weeks ago. I was guilty of that.
What changed your mind? Oh, did I just lose you? Oh, I don't know why. I'm so sorry. That just dropped. Feel free to call back. Oh, I've got it on Do Not Disturb. Danny Moore with £5. Please check out this song or video if you haven't seen it. It's all about the BS going on these days. Tom McDonald names and shares it. Thank you for that. Good evening. This is Turf Talk Tuesday.
Hi.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. It just said call failed. One thing changed me was a chance conversation with a teacher at a local school that said she'd got half a dozen transgender kids in her class. This is a Catholic school.
Right.
And that rang a few bells for me. And I'd already sort of started to watch a few things and become aware of a few things. And it's just exploded in my head.
Right.
Where I'm now worried. I've got young grandchildren and they're just starting to be a little bit independent. They're all girls, you know, and if you go out for a meal somewhere, they might go to the toilet on their own. That's that first bit of independence, you know, and you keep an eye on them. And now I'm thinking they can't because I don't know who's in there.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I'm trying to think, well, stop being so paranoid, but then I've not even considered a lot of the stuff. I've not even considered it. And then that's what shocked me.
This is how this has grown though, isn't it? Because normal people think, well, this can't really be happening. I don't want to be paranoid. I don't want to stop my kids. Perhaps I'm not really with it. Perhaps this is something I don't really understand. And I absolutely just think you fundamentally trust your own judgment and your instinct. And your instinct is bang on this. Why would you let a young girl go to a space in which you don't know if there is a strange man or not? Of course you wouldn't. Just because now we call that strange man some sort of stunning and brave woman, it doesn't stop him being a risk. So you're on
have you seen about Leah Thomas, that she was actually in the changing room naked with all her tackle out?
I do. And I talked to some of the parents of the girls and some of the girls in those changing rooms. And if those parents complained about his penis, about his presence, about him swimming, then they would get their daughters kicked off the team. So the silencing in America is extraordinary for a country claiming to have free speech as one of its amendments. But, you know, this is why, like, I would not call Leah Thomas she. I absolutely fundamentally no. You're on a journey. We'll let you off. But this is, I think you.
But did you see with Liz Truss that when she said, "I know what a woman is," and they laughed at her, and she said, "Well, actually, this is a hot topic."
Yeah.
And I thought, yes, because people aren't getting it.
No. Well, I think they will. I think the more, look, you got it. Something eventually crept across your eye line, and it made you change your mind. It made you see this as an issue, as a really, really fundamental, very important issue. So I have hope that other people will see the same.
I'd like to see you do a presentation, a video presentation where you go through, because like I said before, for me, there's so many different layers to this. You know, there's children at the beginning that are just a bit confused, and
it starts with deceit. It starts with the deceit, and it ends with the mutilation of children's bodies.
Yeah.
So yes.
And then I mean, I watched Jordan Peterson before, and he was talking about children. He thinks that some of it is children who've been denied playing, doing, you know, dressing up and playing dress up as a child because they've been so entrenched in technology.
Well,
and so they start doing that as an adult.
Jordan Peterson, I think, I really like the man. I like a lot of what he has to say, but he seems to stay away from the fact that most of these men who dress as women do it to get their rocks off. And it's all
he mentions that as well.
Does he? Thank goodness for that. He's finally caught up. He must have been listening to all the women talking about this. But thank you so much. And I hope many more women are piqued just like you. It's been really nice to talk to you.
Well, please, will you think about doing a short summary?
Yes.
A short presentation that we can share.
Yeah.
Because it seems that we've got to share so many things and people are trying to join all the dots, and really we need it all summarized.
It almost needs like a 3-minute manual, 3 minutes or maybe 30, but I'm really bad at planning these things. So and writing.
But you're so articulate and you're so good at getting the point across.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you so much.
Apart from with James O'Brien, who I could have hit.
Oh,
he didn't let you speak.
No, and he muted me a lot. That's what James O'Brien did. But, you know, we know men that don't like women to speak. There's a word for them. I think we call them misogynists.
Well, I did wonder whether that was the birth of your hashtag, Let Women Speak.
That came from Nottingham. and the women were shouting at the trans activists saying, let women speak. I'm very grateful to each and every one of them. Thank you so much for calling.
All right.
Cheers.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, good evening. If you hurry up, I will squeeze one more call in, but you will have to be super, super quick. Here we go. Okay, good evening. You are through to TERF Talk Tuesday. You may well be the last person I speak to this evening. You can identify yourself. You don't have to. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for taking the call, and thank you for everything you do. I wanted to talk about a drag queen who does drag queen story time. He has been filmed basically simulating sex in front of toddlers. I'm sure you've seen the video.
In the States?
No, in the UK. The video is 3 years old on YouTube, so I'm sure you've seen it. But the reason I wanted to talk about him is because, unfortunately, he's gone completely unchecked, and he is still doing drag queen story times. He's got a whole bunch lined up in the next few weeks. He's even got one tomorrow. And I just want to see.
I don't know if we can name him. I think you might put yourself and me in a dodgy position. Even if I haven't seen the video, or I may have seen the video, but I can't quite think of the one you're talking about.
Right, definitely.
But so drag queen story time, as in he's going into libraries.
Yeah, so the video is from 3 years ago, but I've only recently become aware of it, and I was shocked because I recognised the guy because he's done drag queen story time from where I'm from. He's done it a couple of times in a local theatre, and I won't name him, but if you can definitely look him up on YouTube.
You're welcome to link the video in the chat. You're more than welcome to do that, because then we can see it. I'm just saying, I don't know legally how I stand if we both name him, if I can't corroborate instantly what you said.
Yeah, okay.
And what I will also do though is, if you link that in the chat, I will ask the 2 amazing women who run the social media accounts to also share that video. And then if you can also share where you think he is performing tomorrow, then we can also share that.
Yeah, basically how I found out about it is for some reason he came to mind, because like I said, this guy's been to my local library, and so I don't know why he came to mind, but I looked him up on Facebook, and he had a like a Facebook page, and that's where I saw the dates, and I was like, oh my goodness, because he, in this video, he twerks in front of kids. He goes, right kids, this is how you twerk, and he turns to the side so you can get a side on view. He humps the air and makes the motion that a man would if he was having sex with someone from behind, and then he turns his head to look towards the audience to get a good look of how they react. It's just shocking that he's still doing this drag queen story times. So I'm just trying to link the video in the chat.
I wonder, look, I totally agree with you. I think all drag is absolutely terrible for children. Why do you think he's got away with it though? Why do you think that suddenly twerking and sort of sexualized movements is okay to perform to children just because it's a drag queen? Why do you think people accept it?
I don't understand. I mean, in the video, the parents, I guess they're the parents because they're sort of adult voices, they just sort of nervously laugh when he does it. And I mean, I don't have kids, but if I did, I would obviously, I'm just turning on my computer so I can
that's okay.
put the thing in the chat. Yeah, obviously I'd never take my kids to a drag queen story time, but I don't know what sort of people would. But they just nervously laugh, and I just feel like if I was there, that would have been the end of the drag queen story time, because I would have gone bananas if I'd seen that. So I can't understand it.
Well, I think we're in an age of virtue signaling, and I think about this a lot. I think about the difference between actually doing something that's of value and raising awareness, and virtue signaling. And if you want to tell everyone that you're a really nice person, you're definitely not homophobic, you're really supportive of different identities and feminine men, even though I don't think some of the drag queens, especially if it is this person I'm thinking of, I don't think he's a particularly feminine man at all, or even what people who use the word feminine man would mean. I think he's quite a blokey. I think he's quite a blokey man who does drag. But even if we're talking about that, I think that's what people do. They're like, oh, drag's really good. You know, I'm telling my son, I don't mind him wearing makeup or dresses, and it's absolutely, and aren't I the greatest parent on earth? I think that is why they go. I don't think that they would go if it was a woman dressed like that. I don't think they would go and watch it. If it was a woman behaving and twerking in sort of tight-fitting clothing with absolutely shed loads of makeup, cleavage showing, and a bad wig, I don't think people would take their kids to watch it at all.
No, it'd be like going to take the kids to see a stripper.
Well, that's coming next, I'm sure, to a local library near you. Stripping for kids, or maybe just pup play. I have no idea. But yes, have you shared that in the chat now?
Yeah, I've shared it a few times. Yeah. All
right. Thank you so very much. And what a time to be alive. Thank you so very much for calling. Cheers.
Thank you for everything you do.
You are very welcome. Hope to, do you come to our events?
I haven't, but if you're in Birmingham, I will be.
We are going to do Birmingham. I really, really want to come to Birmingham, but how lovely to talk to you. Have a great evening. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. Well, that's it, you lovely people. It is, Lady C says, I believe it's a lot darker than just virtue signaling. Do you? Look, we've touched upon it this evening. It was very convenient because we started off with, oh, Lady Punchbag, thank you for $8.99. I do feel like a hippo in a wheelie chair with fire. I touched upon it when I started about my friends who are going to this couples therapy, and they're on their third therapist because the first two women actually seem to side with the husband. We know that when women and men go into hospital, that a man's pain is taken far more seriously. We know that there have been some really terrible consequences to that. We know that there is an element of that when it comes to maternal death, and when it comes to Black women and white women. And we know that Black women being loud is just angry Black women. It's not women actually suffering and in any sort of pain. And we know there's other stuff to do with that, but that is definitely an element that has been researched and picked up on. So we know that. And when we talked to this young girl outside of the pub, and she talked about her trans friends, her trans women friends, being vulnerable, needing to use women-only spaces, she definitely 100% centered those men above all other women. Now, she was very nice about it, and she said she didn't know how she felt about the rape victim, and maybe they could go in a different toilet. She wasn't horrible, irrational, unreasonable, angry. She was calm. She listened. She appreciated it was a difficult, tricky subject. And what she didn't know about herself is she was willing to center these men. And that's what she'd been doing. She'd been listening to those men saying how afraid and how difficult it was. And she seemed to come down on the side of it's more difficult to these men to identify as a woman in 2022 than it is to be a woman in 2022. And that doesn't even make sense, because we know there are disparities, and I'm not saying it's dire or terrible. I'm really, really not. But we know that there are disparities when it comes to certain types of violence, when it comes to violence in the home, when it comes to sexual violence. We know that men are more likely to be the perpetrators and women are more likely to be the victims. I don't know how I feel about the gender pay gap. I do know how I feel about the fact that women do more of the unpaid labor in the home, caring for elderly relatives, etc. So we do know we have a different place of each of us, each sex in society. So it would be really extraordinarily weird, right, to both accept that being a woman is difficult, which this woman was a particular sort of woke woman who probably went marching, talked about the Sarah Everard case, which we all think is despicable and disgusting. She probably talks a lot about abortion. She probably talks a lot about feminism and sexism. She probably acknowledges all the things that I'm sure not everybody in the chat does. She did those things, and she then decided that rather than the women that have no choice but to experience that, the men who choose it, not that they do experience it, but she would say they did. So she would say that women suffer gender pay gap, yada, yada, yada. And then she would say that those men who opt into that oppression are actually worse off and need more consideration than the women that are actually women. That is what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that they've done a study and a hungry boy gets fed quicker than a hungry girl, right? I don't know if that's in the UK, but that's certainly in somewhere because I've heard it. We know all these things about boys and girls and how we are seemingly disposed to the idea that boys and men are more vulnerable, that a man's bad behavior is not always his fault. A woman moaning about a man's bad behavior is her fault. We know these things, and it's just peculiar that women are totally complicit in this absolute nonsense. Anyway, okay, who is that? I've done that. Do I come to Exeter? I'm going to go everywhere. I'm going to go absolutely everywhere. Somebody said, I'm unsure who's being referred to. I don't know who you're talking about either. I'm just going to, thank you all for helping me kill time for work. You're welcome, Dystopian Deep Dives. When I talk about unpaid labor in the home, I'm talking about women are more likely to care for their elderly parents than boys, than men. Or boys might be more fitting. Women are more likely to do that sort of unpaid labor. It doesn't mean that men don't work. Don't worry, boys. We all love you very much. It just means that we acknowledge some of the things that actually happen in the world, and we don't feel like making too many caveats when we talk about it. So do excuse my English. Right. If you can continue, like these amazing callers this evening, like Matthew who quit his job, like that amazing teacher who quit her job, like JT who works in schools, like the grandmother who is worried for her grandchildren. If you also find the courage to have difficult conversations with those around you, then I promise we will win. If you cannot couch your language, if you cannot apologize for standing up for women and girls, then I promise we will win. If you can go into Facebook groups, even when you are getting the onslaught from hell from a load of woke idiots, I promise we will win. If you can stand firm in the face of our woke police, and you can ensure that you say not one word beyond no comment, then I promise we will win. And you know why else we're going to win? Because I'm going to have to do you, not Anna. Let's do a TERF picnic in Southsea, right by the beach. Lovely stuff. Sounds good to me. Oh, by the way, be the billboard. Go to adulthumanfemale.store. Go to adulthumanfemale.us if you want to shop in the United States of America and get better post rates, mail costs, times, whatever. If you want to join Standing for Women membership, it is www.standingforwomen.com. If you want to be a local group for Standing for Women, it is local@standingforwomen.com. There are many ways to help. You can simply like, share, and subscribe. And that is how we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Because I never lose.